Okay, no worries. We've had some good picks here. I need something to turn around my disaster of a day. 2 weeks in a row, I've just died on the vine on the main slate here. Nick, how's your day been going? And why are you a Miami Dolphins fan?
Yes, I've been a Dolphins fan my whole life, and it has gotten worse and worse and worse every day as a Dolphins fan. And this morning was no difference with that. If you guys were watching the fantasy football live stream in the morning, I was just done with the game, honestly. I might have looked like I was going to cry, so I'm glad that I didn't cry so that no one could meme me on Twitter crying Jordan style. But yeah, today was bad because of the Dolphins. But at the end of the day, we're going to win it all back tonight, baby.
All right. I want to see if we're getting some sound here. Give me a sign in chat if we are. I can hear Nick in the video, so hopefully they can hear all of us. Let's continue along here. Terry, how was your afternoon? Sounded like you got an old man nap in there.
I was a young man nap after staying up for like 48 consecutive hours to provide fantasy football coverage for all the wonderful people out here and migrate the entire chat over from Slack to Discord and everything. But yeah, I took a nice little nap during the afternoon. Missed, fortunately, most of the 1 o'clock games. I knew my Giants were going to get smoked by the Rams. There was no avoiding that. So I just kind of took that one off. Popped Red Zone on, slept through most of it, woke up for about a half hour, looked at my terrible lineups, and went back to sleep for a little while, then popped on Succession during the 4 o'clock game. So I'm just catching up on season 2, waiting for the season 3 premiere tonight because God knows I'm not going to watch this game.
Yeah, well, it's, I'm not making fun of you guys because it's my turn tonight because, wait for it. Yep, Seattle Seahawks fan here. So
That's right.
we may be looking for a 3-game sweep here of our favorite squads getting into trouble here just a little bit. I'm multitasking, doing a little NBA draft for money. I had one at 7 o'clock tonight and one at 9 o'clock. I just got back from taking my wife to the airport. She's headed out to stay with my family for a couple days out in the West Coast, and then go visit one of her friends, and they are one of her running partners. So the two of them are going to be doing craft stuff and doing half marathons, which I have zero interest in doing either.
That's a fun time. Come on, that's a fun trip, and that just means kegger at Emacs house this weekend, right?
Well, yes, everybody's gone except me and the dog. Just
There you go.
having pizza
We'll be
after the show. I may crack a beer, but the dog with just me alone, we tend to get up at 5:30, so the mornings come pretty early. So there's a bit of a pain and suffering moment there. But we're going to get in here, not to fear. We have 58 minutes until kickoff. We are going to continue doing what we have in the past few weeks here. We're going to be looking at talking across some of the different sites here and how to build cash game lineups. Of course, we are brought to you by none other than PrizePicks. So we will be discussing them in depth along with everybody else. But we're going to start off here with Yahoo. We've had some nice moments here on Yahoo the last couple weeks here. The interesting thing that you want to consider when you're looking at Yahoo is their pricing is quite different. They have what they call the Superstar, which is their 1x multiplier. You can give that to one person. Similar to FanDuel, it's half PPR. There's just 5 positions that you choose, and there's no salary multiplier like there is on DraftKings. However, their pricing is much different than everybody else. Tonight's really interesting because nobody is particularly expensive. We're looking kind of at Najee Harris up at the top. Then you got the quarterbacks and the wide receivers for both teams kind of jumbled there in the middle. And then you've got a couple, shall we say, discount dandies, but they're discounted for a reason. So this is going to be kind of an interesting one. Terry, I'm going to let you lead the way on this one if you want to decide how we want to play this out. My initial lean is we are probably going to want Najee Harris on about 70% of our lineups tonight. He does not have to be in the captain spot because the touchdowns, wherever they are in this 43.5 total, or last time I wrote it down, it was 43.5. There's only about 6 touchdowns going around out there. He may or may not get them. If anybody, say one of the receivers or somebody else gets 2, they are probably going to be the desirable captain or superstar in this case, or we could see them spread out and then it comes down to yardage or half PPR. Terry, how would you like to start us out? The onus is on you now.
Yikes. What a spot to put me in. Jeez. Yeah, it's interesting, right? We've got Najee, and he's probably the most likely to be optimal captain there, I think, just generally thinking about how the Steelers offense has been going. They're favored in this game, despite, I think, overall, if it wasn't for Russ Wilson being out, if it wasn't for Chris Carson being out, this would be probably a game where Seattle was favored on the road going into Pittsburgh, but we do have that situation. So, I mean, it's not like the Pittsburgh passing game has gotten better. It's not like Ben has really solved all of his ongoing problems in a hurry here. So I really do think it leans toward that Najee Harris script, but he's a lot more expensive than a lot of the guys on the board. And if we're going by, it's a weird way to do it, but just looking at some of our FanDuel data, since the scoring is somewhat similar, if we're looking at the optimal rate, it's thrown off a little bit by the salaries, but there is a pretty significant difference in the salary on both sites between Najee Harris and Ben Roethlisberger. And the optimal lineup rate on FanDuel for Roethlisberger is higher than Najee Harris, given that. And the times he's in the top scorer position is significantly less. He's getting owned around the same amount. But I think given that we can save some salary and then maybe pick up with some correlation plays that make an offbeat play at the superstar spot that isn't going to be totally wild, it's still very viable. It's still something that a lot of people will do, but maybe it won't be that same first click that everybody's making. So I'm going to go with Ben Roethlisberger in this spot. I'm going to put Ben in the captain spot and see where we go from there.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, you know what? This is perfectly fine. Now, Ben Roethlisberger, what, has he topped 16 or 17 fantasy points yet this season, Terry? I don't know. Let's take a quick look here because he's having a season for the ages. He is the aged one. No, he is. Last week was his season high with 16.2. He is going to be 40 in the offseason. He is definitely looking like it. This one's kind of interesting. He has just 6 touchdowns so far. Last week was the only week he had 2. He didn't have a touchdown, or he didn't have an interception last week, but he does have 4 on the season. Juju Smith-Schuster out with the season-ending surgery, so he will be gone. James Washington should be back. He missed last week. Claypool and Deontay Johnson have each missed a game themselves, and we should have Ray McLeod back. And Ben, the interesting thing, not really going to the tight ends as much as he has in the past. And then just to throw a wild card in the mix, we did see Najee Harris, I believe it was week 2, 19 targets. Who knows who Ben's going to be throwing it? I do think we'll see him approach 35, 40 pass attempts in this one, just because that's the kind of the way they go. I don't know that he'll be hitting 300 yards. We'll talk about that when we get to some of our PrizePicks selections there, but we'll survive. We'll put in Big Ben here. I'm going to turn this one over to you, Nick. You get to choose. Do we go with one of the wide receivers? Do we look for some reverse correlation? Our one discount dandy that really stands out is Alex Collins is $14 on Yahoo. Below him, we do have Gerald Everett, who I'm pretty sure is active tonight. I just did not refresh that, but Gerald Everett has been out a couple of weeks. He did have COVID. I didn't see if he had symptoms or not, but he was not able to get consecutive negative tests, so he wasn't cleared until this week. But he is at $12, and then you got Travis Homer and DJ Dallas at 10 apiece. Amongst all that riffraff, I think I'd rather just go with Collins, but that may be in our back pocket there. What do you want for our second pick here, Nick?
Yeah, well, I was looking between both of the main receivers for the Pittsburgh Steelers, that being either Deontay Johnson or Chase Claypool. Now, I feel as though Johnson is the more consistent piece, right? Without Juju Smith-Schuster, he's going to be very involved. He was involved when Smith-Schuster was healthy, but I want to go with Chase Claypool, who has recently started to do at least much better than the beginning of the season. Last week, he had 5 receptions on 6 targets for 130 yards and a touchdown. The week before, 9 receptions on 15 targets. No touchdown in that game, though, but he had 96 yards, and I expect him to look very good up against a deflated Seattle defense. So I'm going to go ahead and put Chase Claypool into the lineup for that nice correlation with Mr. Big Ben.
All right. I'm going to go. I'm going to give you this next pick here, Terry. I'll just reserve the Alex Collins one if we need it, but we don't just yet. I'm trying to look and see if Anthony Miller is active. He's not on the inactives list, but I don't know if he's been with the team long enough to actually qualify since they signed him on Tuesday. So I'm going to poke around and see if I can find anything on that. Chad, if anybody knows for sure if he's active, I doubt he is, but he's not inactive. Who do you like for our third option here after Nick's first two, or the first two we have?
So I kind of like the idea of taking a look at another Pittsburgh correlation play here. And I mean, we could go with Harris right here and still have plenty of money to spend, $17 a piece at our other two positions with plenty of value on the board. It's not the craziest thing in the world, but I think it's probably going to be super chalky to do it that way. So maybe we take a look at one of these alternative receivers. We've already got Claypool in there. We could go with the defense, which I think is kind of interesting here. The defense was a viable, as I reviewed. Again, it's changing up sites in what we're sampling for data, but the defense was more viable in this kind of a format with this kind of a point spread, this kind of a game total in Vegas. So I think defense is kind of interesting here. You mentioned the tight ends, and he's not looking at the tight ends as much, but I think maybe that could get us to a spot where it's a little bit sneaky to look at one of the tight ends. I'm just not totally sure where exactly I want to go. As you can probably tell, I'm kind of talking my way through it. But I do like the idea of focusing in on, if we're going to go with the Roethlisberger at captain play, maybe we go with the Onslaught. Maybe we think, all right, this is going to be an overwhelming Pittsburgh win. This is going to be something like what Vegas is seeing, where Pittsburgh's going to be favored, and it's not going to be that much of a contest. I'm going to, let's see.
Nick, who was your pick? Deontay?
No, we went Chase Claypool.
We went Claypool. Yeah.
Claypool. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, bear with me. I'm just jumping back to the FanDuel board here, and I just want to see in terms of our top 2 to 5 percentages on some of these guys, knowing that it's FanDuel scoring that I'm looking at, but again, taking it into account that we can kind of take a crossover there. A guy who's offbeat but has a shot at getting into the top 5 and would definitely take us in a different construction direction, I think, is James Washington. And I'm going to do that because it leaves us with plenty of money and we can do whatever we want with $27 per player.
Interesting. I did not see us going that route, but I like it. So you're going with James Washington. You know what? I'm going to put in Najee Harris there because why not? We're going Onslaught all the way. There's a magic person there at $25. It's DK Metcalf. You could drop down to 23 if you want to go with Geno Smith. You got Deontay Johnson at 21. Oops, wait, we have to pick a Seahawk. You got to pick at least one player from each team. Nick, you are left with Geno Smith. Boo.
Oh, we're not going to have the Seahawks fan pick the Seahawks?
DK Metcalf. Yay.
I thought I was
just
teeing you up to
Najee
be able to
Harris.
pick the Seahawks. Oh, that's right. All right. That's right.
But if you want a true fan, I'm going with Steve Largent. He's not in the player pool tonight, but
fire it up.
All right, so
All right,
we're going with Metcalf. Metcalf just got force-fed last week by Geno Smith. Now, it's entirely possible that this, for some reason, is a Tyler Lockett game, but based upon what we saw after Russ went down, it seems like he really likes to target DK, that being Geno Smith. So we got to go with DK Metcalf and spend all of our money this time.
all right. I like that. Let's move on next to the blue side. I'm looking for Anthony Miller. I'm not seeing anything here. News guy probably floating around. He may know. I don't think he's going to be active tonight, but there we go. People are saying he is in the player pool. Yes, he's in the player pool. He's showing up in Fantasy Cruncher, the default projections, depending on which site you're going from at 10. That's because that's their projections for it. This is a tough one. Apologies, we don't know. I went and did a Twitter search and a Google search. The most four recent Twitter searches are all, is Anthony Miller playing tonight? Crowdsource this one.
That could have been from over the course of a long period of time as well.
No. I sorted by time. Those are over the last 15 minutes. People are asking the same questions we are. All right, Terry, we're going over to the blue side. We're going to turn you loose on this one. We'll let Nick have first crack at DK when we get on over there.
All righty. So I typically, for when we talk about the Yahoo one, I'm always thinking in terms of tournament for Yahoo. Are we thinking in terms of cash game here or for FanDuel? Or are we building another tournament lineup?
Let's go with another tournament one. Kind of fun tonight. There's a lot of different choices. Anyway. Yeah, there's a lot of different choices kind of in the similar price point. So I think this one is pretty reasonable. We talk a little bit here. Let's hit some quick analysis here just on Geno Smith. So Geno Smith is, not that great. There's a reason he hasn't been on an active, getting a lot of action on the football field in recent days. So he's going to be under center tonight. This will just be the 32nd start of his career. He's started 29 games for the Jets in his first two seasons. He's only started 2 games since then, the last being back in the 2017 season. He's just turned 31 last Sunday. He has a 4.1% interception rate and an 8.1 sack rate. League averages are 2.1 to 2.4 over the last 4 years for sacks and 5.9 to 6.8 for picks. Muy malo, I believe, is what the kids would say in Mexico. What do you want to do now that you know we've said bad things about Geno Smith?
Yeah, Mexico or any other Spanish-speaking country. Geno, I think there's a reason that he hasn't really been relevant in 6 or 7 years. It's been quite a while for Geno Smith. I don't really see a need to overload the roster with him. He's not coming up as all that positive a leverage play either. He's a 1 on our if you plug in a captain leverage there and take our captain optimal lineup rate on FanDuel and subtract his ownership from it just to do a rough estimate of leverage. So if you're going to play him, I prefer him in the flex spot, I think. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I like the idea of getting both quarterbacks in this game. Just book some high-scoring players, and they're going to be among the most likely to have a high score here. I think it's another spot, though, for the FanDuel captain where we want to go with one of the Steelers players. You could go, Ben, with the idea that the quarterback is going to be the more likely to be optimal play on FanDuel. But in this particular game, it's close. And on our board, it's close enough for me that I think I want to go in a different direction, pick up a little bit of advantage on the ownership, pick up a little bit of leverage. And I want to go with one of Ben's receivers in the MVP spot here. Hope that he gets more targets than the other guy. Hope he books it in the end zone a couple times and the other guys don't. Just going by purely leverage, since we're looking at our at a tournament lineup here, I'm going to take Deontay Johnson off the top of the board.
All right. I think that one is interesting for sure. Who are you liking on this one, Nick?
All right. So we got Deontay Johnson as the captain. Let's go ahead and just get Big Ben right onto the team instantly. So we got Big Ben and Deontay Johnson. Not too much explaining needed to be done there for that one. Just go ahead and get the quarterback for the receiver. That is our MVP.
That makes a lot of sense.
All right. I am going to make a pick here. I'm going to go with Alex Collins. So Alex Collins is kind of interesting. Not a young guy. He was drafted, I want to say, by the Seahawks, I want to say in 2016. He ended up leaving them the next year, and he went on over to Baltimore. He did have an 1,100-yard season with Baltimore back in whatever his second season was. That's really the last time he has done very much of anything. He can do a little bit in the running, a little bit of receiving, but there's a reason he has barely played. I think this will just be his 8th game in the last 3 years, but I still like Alex Collins in this one. I think he has decent touchdown equity.
I like that. Yeah,
Nick.
I think he's definitely on the board and on a pretty short slate with only one game to choose from, and yeah, a big question mark in the passing game on that side. I think it makes a ton of sense to kind of go with the safer play from that team.
We're going to pivot back to Nick just to have a little bit of fun with this.
Like it.
All right, that makes sense. So now that where we are sitting right now, I do kind of want to get Geno in our lineup, but that does appear to be kind of more of an expensive move in my eyes. The question here is, can we get to maybe getting DK in this lineup? I do like DK a lot. You know what? We're going to go ahead and get Chase Claypool into this lineup as well with the double wide receiver stack from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like I said, I think that Chase Claypool is on that upward tick, and without Juju Smith-Schuster in the lineup, I feel as though that really guarantees his spot as the number 2 guy in the team behind Deontay Johnson. While I guess Deontay Johnson may not be realistically as good of a player as Chase Claypool, it just seems like him and Big Ben have some type of connection, this chemistry where he just throws the ball to him 7,000 times. So I think Chase Claypool is a pretty solid pick here as well.
So Terry, I'm going to give you a choice. We can remove Collins. We can put in Tyler Lockett, and then we have 8,000 left for, say, a James Washington, or you can maneuver with Alex Collins in there and have $10,000, but we'd be leaving 1,000 on the table and looking at one of the 2 kickers most likely. Do you have a preference on that?
So we'll talk it through. I'm just thinking about whether let's make a deal. The Monty Hall problem applies here because you're offering me that switch. And, I could just take that switch based on that, but I don't think it directly applies. I'm just looking at some
notes here. Some kickers are easy. Yeah, Heinz Field is a little tricky for kickers, but I do give the home field advantage to Boswell. Jason Myers, 7-year veteran, was perfect last year, made all 24 field goals, missed 4 extra points. However, his career success rate is just a touch above average. Again, Heinz Field a little bit tricky with the way the winds kind of swirl slightly. Not that it's windy tonight. It's just one of those where, remember the old Metrodome, or was it the Silverdome, where they had the air conditioning unit and they turn on you could see the little trailers blowing when the opposing team was coming in to kick? Yeah. That's home field advantage.
Nothing going on there.
I wish I knew what that meant.
Okay. All right. Go Jags. All I can say is go Jags.
Well, you know what? That's me.
All right. Back to our question. You keeping Collins, spending 10K, or are you going with Lockett?
So that was the choice, Collins, or we could put Lockett in that spot.
Yes.
If we put Lockett there, then we only have 8, right?
But you get James Washington, which is
James Washington.
You're going nothing but wide receivers and Big Ben. So kind of interesting there.
I mean, I could take James Washington and leave Alex Collins and leave 2,000 on the table. I kind of like the idea of doing that and just not spending all our money if this is a tournament lineup. Yeah, and then we're just kind of looking into that same idea of a Pittsburgh onslaught. You're taking the most likely to at least be safe, give you a solid floor of scoring, and not have to mess with the idea of Geno Smith successfully delivering the ball to someone. So I kind of like that idea of sticking with the safer, quote unquote, safer play from the Seattle side, leave 2,000 on the table, and book the entire Pittsburgh onslaught here.
Okay, that works perfect. And of course, naturally, the contest I was putting this in just filled.
Gotta love that.
Really? What?
I assume it's probably the one I was going to put mine in then too.
Squib.
As I pick up my phone here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing it on my phone too.
No, you guys are crazy. All right. Well, let me get this in here. Reminder. Hey, hit that like button. We have quite a few people watching, and we do appreciate that. But that does help us battle that pesky YouTube algorithm. Gives us a nice little chance there to there we go, got that lineup in. Gives us a nice little chance to pop up on other people's feeds. We do appreciate that. It's very helpful. We've got about 800 people or so watching. Let's get up to 120 likes, and I'm going to drop 10 $1 head-to-heads in here on DraftKings in the lobby, so you guys can take on team free money. While I've been on a major Sunday main slate losing streak, getting my ass kicked the last 2 weeks, I did go 12-2 in my head-to-heads last Sunday. Hey, just throwing it out there.
Great job.
Just throwing it out there. Of course, I got swept the week before, but that's all right. That's all right. All right, Nick, I did say you were going to get the first pick here on the DraftKings side. So remember, we do have 2x salary here, or pardon me, 1.5x salary here in the MVP spot. So you'll want to, or the captain spot, you'll want to keep in mind that when you're building your lineups. But we also have a significant salary floor. We've got Travis Homer and DJ Dallas down there, both under $1,000. They're kind of interesting. I'm considering putting in DJ Dallas into my cash lineup. We shall see. But Nick, you get the first selection here of our DK lineup.
All right. Well, since we've basically went with all Steelers stacks, maybe we'll switch it up this time and we'll go DK Metcalf for the Seattle Seahawks. I do believe, again, like I said a little bit earlier, that they're just going to pepper him with the ball. Geno Smith was feeding him all game last time. And I think if that ends up happening again, I mean, it's just really easy to throw it to DK Metcalf. Even if you are Geno Smith, the guy's just so big that should really be no issue at all. So I'm going to go DK in the captain spot. A little bit different.
All right. I'm going to have some fun here. I'm going with DJ Dallas. This is going to open us up wide. I would prefer not to play Alex Collins in this one. This is sort of hoping that Homer and Dallas end up with the running back duties. They both kind of played a little bit on third down. It seems like, which is just weird, but it seems like Homer is going to be the one that replaces him on the running downs, but there's nothing that says that can't change. We saw both of them get a little bit of action the last couple of years when every running back was hurt, to the point that they brought back Marshawn Lynch, who had been out of the league for a year. They brought him back into the playoffs of all things. So these guys have been around a little bit. They know the system. Pete Carroll likes the running backs that know his systems. That's why they brought Alex Collins back, et cetera here. But I think it's going to be a little interesting to go with DJ Dallas. That will leave us 8,600 per slot here. We can have some fun with this one, Terry.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I think that is the guy that I would have gone with out of those two. I like the idea of going to either one, but just looking at our board for DK, you get a little bit more leverage out of DJ Dallas than in that comparison than Travis Homer. And you also get him coming up a little bit more frequently in the optimal lineup. So it's the better play and you're getting a little bit more leverage on it. So I'm a big fan of that decision. And that's the way I kind of like to look at this board. Where are we getting our leverage in these utility spots? Because it's so important to what we can do on the DK constructions here. Looking at, for some reason that captain didn't go in. Who did we pick as captain? Sorry, it didn't.
Metcalf.
Went into a flex spot. Weird. 1 second here.
So yeah, we got Metcalf and Dallas.
Why isn't it because I'm clicked on the thing there. All right. Now we got it. All right, so that leaves us with about 9,000 to spend per position. So we can go in a lot of different directions with that. Taking a look back over to the board there, I kind of like the idea of going just to the top leverage option. It's a guy who comes up significantly optimal. He's owned. He's almost 40% owned, but he's coming up more frequently optimal in that. And that's Chase Claypool, who we've gone to a few times, and we've kind of explained why we like him here. But just the idea that you can get a guy that we like that much with significant positive leverage on him, I think it makes sense to throw him in here. And we're going kind of toward a skill player build here. So we'll see what we do with the last three spots.
All right. I am inserting to muck around just a little bit. I'm going to throw in Geno Smith here. We haven't picked Geno Smith on one of our lineups yet. We do have Metcalf in the captain spot. I'm going to put Geno Smith in there. That's still going to give us 7,600. We can go all the way up to Najee Harris if you'd like. We can look to Deontay Johnson. I don't know that I want to go with multiple receivers since we are guessing, 2 touchdowns from Geno Smith. Let's hope they both go to Metcalf and not split this out with Tyler Lockett. What do you like here, Nick?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I think we should go with Najee Harris. Again, we've continued to really talk heavily on Najee Harris. Like you said, a couple of weeks ago, the guy had 19 targets. There's really no other player on the field that can have anything like that. Now, Big Ben to me actually looked way better last week than I honestly thought that he would after being just awful basically the rest of the season. So I think that Najee Harris is going to be in for a pretty solid spot here. And the Seattle Seahawks defense isn't the greatest up against the run. They're not the greatest up against the pass. They're just not the greatest overall. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Najee Harris had just a fantastic showing today.
All right, now here's where we may have entered ourselves a little bit into a corner, but we've got a couple outs. We have both Pittsburgh tight ends here. We have Eric Ebron at 3,400. We have 3,400 left. We also have Freiermuth, their rookie. Freiermuth has seen a couple more targets, but he's running about half the routes and a little more than half the snaps of what Ebron is. I think this has just been bad luck for Ebron. I think they're probably going to split duties, but I think it's closer to 50-50, but I think Ebron's going to have the edge. I don't have a strong lean for either of those guys. You could also go to Freddie Swain in there. I don't want Travis Homer because we've already are taking a gamble here on DJ Dallas. What are you liking from our last spot here, Terry?
Can you run down this lineup one more time for me?
Metcalf, Dallas, Claypool, Smith, Harris.
Metcalf, Dallas, Claypool, Smith, Harris, right?
Yep.
Yes.
34 left.
Okay, maybe it's something in the lineup builder that's not cooperating with me here because it was pushing that into negative for the salary remaining there.
It could be a hiccup with how it calculates.
I think that might have been the case there. Yep. So let me just put these guys back in here one more time. Hopefully we get to the right number this time. Geno, that last pick after Geno was
Najee Harris.
Najee Harris.
There we go. And I've got us with 55 now.
You got 3,400.
You have 3,400.
Let's go with Eric Ebron. He costs 3,400. That's easy.
Perfect.
I do like the idea of taking one of the tight ends off the board here. I think Ben hasn't necessarily been looking in that direction quite as frequently as maybe in years past, but there's a lot of skill in both of those guys. Now, Ebron is the negatively leveraged one out of the two. Freemuth is a 1.4 leverage. He's squeaking by a little bit more between his optimal rate and his projected ownership. But between the two, Ebron's actually the one who has owned less overall in the aggregate. So I just kind of want to go in that direction. Even though it's negative leverage, technically, it's less overall ownership on the individual player. So I want to go that way. And it fits.
All right. That wraps us up on that one. We're going to get into the analysis now. We've covered a fair amount of it, but we're going to go by team, by position, just to make sure we haven't left anything out. We have, what do we have? Like 20. Oh, we have 30 minutes until kickoff. So we have plenty of time. We'll have some time for questions, etc. here. I've made all my lineups except my showdown lineup. So I'm going to tweak that with some of the rules and stuff, but let's look at kind of going team by team. Or team by position. We'll talk about PrizePicks. We got a bunch of picks lined up for them and have some fun. I do want to remind you guys, if you want to get in on all of the good stuff here that is behind the paywall, you can get 25% off 1 week of Awesemo Platinum, 25% off that if you use the promo code NFL Showdown LBL. So that is something that you're going to want to take a gander at, have a little fun with. If you just have time to play the primetime slates, no problem there. We do have the NFL Express Pass. That's $3.95 a week. You get the Sunday, Monday, and Thursday night showdown. All of our content. You get the projections. You get the ownership projections. You get the boom bust tool, the leverage tool for all of that. We are also including TK tiers in that as well. You get the projections for the DK tiers, and we're also working on player ownership for that as well. We've thrown that into the package just so a little something extra. And that also gets you access to our Discord. We're in the process of migrating from Slack to Discord this week, so you can check that out. We've got both up and running right now. It's just that some of your friends may not be on both. We're trying to just push everybody, lead everybody over there to the Discord, but we can have some fun. So again, that's promo code NFL Live, promo code NFL Showdown LBL. I'm sure it's on the screen, or Nightbot will put it in there. That's 25% off any week long package, and then it's $3.95 for our express package. All right, Nick, looking at the top here, we have said some less than flattering things, or I have anyway, about Ben Roethlisberger. Is there any good that we want to bring up? Oops, sorry, that's the wrong team. Geno Smith. Well, I've said some less than flattering things about him tonight as well, other than he's one of two starting quarterbacks tonight. Woohoo! Anything you found? Anything you found in your research about Geno Smith, other than he has about 50% higher than league average sack and interception rate?
Yeah, well, those are not very good things. But to me, he actually looked pretty good last week until the end, of course, when he didn't look very good and he threw the costly interception. But at the end of the day, he's not a guy that anyone should be explosively high on tonight, having an amazing game up against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. This is a tough matchup for him, and I expect him to struggle a little bit. But at the end of the day, it could be worse than Geno Smith. It could be Josh Rosen or something. So you never know.
Ouch. Or Jake
That's
Luton.
tough for Josh Rosen.
Well, Jake Luton couldn't see some action tonight. Let's hope not. Moving down there to the running backs, gave a lot about that in our breakdown here. Let's hit on the receivers, Terry. As we look on the Seattle receivers, obviously it's DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett was the hard luck guy last week. Just missed what would have been a touchdown on the play that Wilson was injured on. Also had a pass interference call that could have given him a nice long catch that went the other way. Pittsburgh is 24th in passing DVOA. Philip Dorsett was brought up onto the active roster. They also have Freddie Swain, who is the third receiver. The over-under on those guys' targets, 2.5 feels about right, especially with Gerald Everett back. Anything you want to point out from the Seattle receiver room? Metcalf is going to be the guy I like the most just because of what he can do after the catch. Lockett needs to be down the field when he gets those catches. I don't know what's going to happen there with Geno Smith. Said bad things about his interception and sack rate. Career completion percentage is just under 59%.
Yeah, and to me, that's the really only point here about these Seattle receivers is that it's Geno Smith throwing the ball, not Russell Wilson. It's a major, major difference when we're talking about those two. Just looking at Geno Smith's quote-unquote good years, back with the Jets for 2 years in 2013, 2014. He started 16 games in 13, threw for 3,046 yards and 12 TDs. 13 touchdowns in 14 games the year after that. He's not a good quarterback, and he's played scatteringly in his ages 25 through 31 now seasons. He's played a game here, a game there, a few minutes here, a few minutes there. This is not a guy, even coming into when he became a backup, did not have like a lot of seasoning, a lot of NFL experience. So it's just not a good situation. It's not a good athlete. It's not a good situation. I mean, we have to go to them, and these are the players that we obviously want to go to from the Seattle side. It's going to be a ton of Metcalf and Lockett and Collins, and then intersperse a little bit of some of these other guys, some of the more offbeat plays. Between the two, Metcalf and Metcalf and Lockett, rather, they trade back and forth a little bit on the target shares as you look, 10 last week for Lockett, 5 for Metcalf. Week before it was 8 Metcalf, 5 Lockett. Week before that, 9-4. The week before that, 11-11, 5-5 week 1. So it's kind of a 1-1A situation. I think it's just whatever fits your lineup, whatever fits your build in terms of getting a little bit of leverage if you need it, getting a little bit of salary savings if you need it. I view both these guys similarly. I do agree with what you said about the downfield ability versus, the need to already beat somebody. So there is that aspect of it, but I like both receivers in a vacuum. It's just about the guy throwing them the ball today.
All right. Tight ends, really not much to add. Disley he's going to lose anything. He wasn't getting much, but he's going to lose out now that Everett is back. Yeah. Kobe Parkinson played 38 and 35 snaps the 2 games Everett was out. If he's even active tonight, unlikely to do much. Looking at the special teams here, Seattle middle of the pack against the rush. Horrible against the pass. Pittsburgh has allowed 11 sacks this season, just the 4 interceptions and 2 fumbles. So basically, I said here in my notes, a mirror image of the Seahawks, who have 10 sacks and 5 takeaways. Nothing great. Big Ben, the one thing you can say about Big Ben is even though he's no longer mobile, he still can take that first glancing blow and at least throw the ball away or not quite get he's not going to be knocked over relatively.
He's still easily. Big is what you're trying to say.
He's Big Ben. But aside from that, who knows? Speaking of Big Ben, so through 5 games, he's passed 254 passing yards only twice. 253 was one of them. Of course, I cherry-picked that stat, but he has just 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Seattle defense will probably make him look competent. Running back, Najee Harris. So here's who Seattle has faced thus far, Nick. We've got Derrick Henry, who had 182 rushing, 55 receiving. Jonathan Taylor, 56 rushing, 60 receiving. Nyheim Hines in that same game, 34 and 48. Alexander Madison, 112 and 59. Darrell Henderson, 82 and 17. Even rookie Trey Sermon got in there, 89 rushing yards, 0 receiving. But come on, he's a rookie. What's Najee Harris? Another rookie, but he's a real rookie. He is clearly the focal point of the offense, at least from the running game. Najee Harris has over 80% of the snaps, over 80% of the workload. Do you have any concerns about not playing him?
Yeah, I would be very concerned if at least a bunch of my lineups didn't have him, if I'm being honest with you. He is the key point of this Steelers offense. Even if Big Ben starts messing around, even if Big Ben doesn't look as good as he looked last week, he's still going to be able to dump the ball off to Najee Harris. He's still going to keep Najee Harris very involved in the game. I understand why the Steelers ended up picking him in the first round, I guess, because they plan to just run the guy directly into the dirt. They use him very heavily every single game. And it would be hard pressed to kind of not get him, at least in my opinion, in a majority of your lineups, especially especially with just how many receptions this guy can get game in and game out. Plus, the rushing volume is just insane. They barely use a single other running back behind the guy. He is the clear guy. He's basically like Christian McCaffrey, but maybe not as good as Christian McCaffrey, but kind of that workload-esque type of deal here. So I love Najee Harris this week. I love him every single week, but in this matchup up against the Seahawks, who have been getting ran through by these running backs, I really do expect him to have a huge game.
All right, Terry, let's take a little break for a super chat here. This is from D Niz. Says, is it a must to play both quarterbacks in a high dollar DK cash and or single entry? So sort of two questions there. So my answer, at least on the cash portion, is no, you don't have to play both of them with these two quarterbacks. I would think you're going to want Najee Harris. If you don't have him in the captain, you better have him in the flex. Then the questions start to get interesting. You could start to look at a Deontay Harris who can get there on PPR and have a nice game, even if Big Ben doesn't. You get Chase Claypool, who could get the athletic touchdown or the game-breaking touchdown. And we've only seen Ben throw 6 through 5 games. So Ben could still have a bad game, and one of his receivers could be a top 3 scorer on this. So I don't think you need to force in either of the quarterbacks. What would your answer be on that one, Terry?
I think you do want to force in at least one quarterback. I think that's almost mandatory for DraftKings build for Showdown, almost regardless.
Oh, and let me back up. For those of you not aware, Terry digs through this data all the time. He's looking at a lot of stuff for Showdown content across the different sites from a historical perspective, what has worked, what hasn't worked, who's been in the captain. So just by default, he's going to have a better feel for a lot of these things, the leverage tools, et cetera, which is why I'm throwing this to him. You want the super chalk answer? That'll be me. We haven't quite figured out Nick yet. If he's chalk donkey like the rest of us, he does like some wild plays every now and then. But we're going to Terry for this one since he has looked at a tremendous amount of historical data in these situations.
Yeah, Nick's put us on some sharp offbeat calls over the last couple of weeks. I think he's coming down on the sharp side of that equation. But yeah, just looking through what I wrote up in the Optimizer Group's article that I published for every one of the featured Showdown contests. We had a 19-point sample for this one over the last two plus seasons, where we were within a point in either direction of the low game total, and we were kind of ignoring the point spread in that. But a lot of them were somewhat analogs for this type of a game. So looking through those 19 victorious lineups, only 3 of those had no quarterback whatsoever in a flex spot, but only 3 of them had quarterback captain plays. None of the ones that had a quarterback captain play included the other quarterback. But 4 of the overall out of 19, or excuse me, 4 out of the 16 winning lineups that featured a quarterback in at least a flex spot had 2 of them. So it is viable to play both, but I would definitely force at least one regardless of format. A quarterback in a flex spot is almost a mandatory play in almost every lineup for me for DraftKings after looking into some of this historical data. What's interesting in this format is you get a breakdown of the skill players over the last few contests where it's been higher totals, a few games with wide point spreads, a few games that were going to be close. We saw pass catchers really winning the day a lot in the captain role. And in this one, lower game total, lower kind of a broad point spread with a 5-point spread. You see more running backs victorious in the captain spot. You see defenses sneak into the captain win a couple of times, not many, but I think it was 3 in the sample out of 19. So there were a few defenses winning in captains. You see a little bit more offbeat stuff. You see primarily 3-3 or 4-2 constructions. 4-2 meaning the 3 skill players with the captain from the same team and then 2 guys from the other team, or 3-3, just even builds. 22 of 32 winning builds if we had another point on either side of the spread and get out to a 32 build sample. 22 of those 32 builds were either 3-3 or 4-2 on DraftKings. And again, we're talking about 27 out of 32 included at least one quarterback in a flex role.
Interesting. I say that because I am going to do something daring. I just put another 10 DK head-to-heads out there, $1 username EMAC. I am not going to play a quarterback in my DK lineup for cash. I am also playing DJ Dallas. This is why it's called Team Free Money. Come and get your love.
I like it. But there's also a reason why that part of my article is titled Small Sample Central, because these are small samples that we're dealing with. We only have so much data to work with. So bear that in mind. But, we can at least pick and choose at some of these trends. And I think there's some interesting points in this one.
All right. We've got 19 minutes to go. Let me just make sure I've got those contests posted. because I can't remember if I hit save or not. I got too many windows open. Oh, let's make it 11 contest because I'll just be quicker. All right, so I'm putting those out there. So we've got, which reminds me, I also did, by doing that, I lost our DK tournament lineup. So one of you guys better get that in there. I just did a global swap. That was not smart on my part. But what is smart on my part is having the two of you guys with us as we head down here towards getting to the prize picks portion of the show. Wide receivers real quick, just kind of wrapping up the rest of Pittsburgh. We talked a lot about Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. They've each missed a game. They're both about 2 targets behind Najee Harris, who did not miss a game and had that 19 target game. James Washington would be the third wide receiver. The 2 games where the primary receivers, Deontay missed one and Claypool missed one. He played about 80% of the snaps. Last week, Ray McLeod played about half the snaps, with Washington being out himself. And then, of course, Juju went down. We've determined Anthony Miller should not be active at this point, even though he was signed on Tuesday after being waived by Houston, who picked him. No, they traded for him, right? Yeah, they traded for him from some conditional pick. Tight end, we've mentioned you've got Pat Freiermuth and Eric Ebron. Nothing great there. Zach Gentry plays a little bit in the double digit or in the double tight end sets. However, he over the last 2 weeks, Ebron 2-2 targets, Freiermuth 1-2, and Gentry 1-2. I believe those are Gentry's only targets. And then Pittsburgh, defense pretty expensive. They have just 4 takeaways this season, 5th fewest in the league. Seattle has the fewest turnovers in the league, just 2 picks and a fumble. However, they're playing a below replacement level quarterback tonight. The Steelers are averaging 2 sacks per game. And with tonight's circumstance, I would think 3.5 combined sacks plus takeaway mark feels about right. And leaning towards the over, I don't think they give up more than 3 touchdowns. So we're not going to go negative on our points there. That gets us through all the fun here. Any thoughts that you want to mention as we turn over to prize picks here, Nick or Terry, that I missed?
You got anything here, Terry? Because the only thing I was going to say was I'm kind of interested in Gerald Everett, but just ever so slightly. Nothing like not like Dawson Knox last week where I was super excited about him. Are we 100% sure that he is playing, though? Because when I clicked on ESPN, it said he was out, but I was like 90% sure he was playing.
Ooh, yeah, that would be interesting news if he's not. I had him in, and I was interested in him. He's a guy we saw had a pretty nice season last year. They brought him here. Gerald Will Smith looks like he's playing as far as I can tell.
It says they activated him from the reserve/COVID list. So my assumption is that he does play. I guess ESPN is just saying he's out for no reason, but I would assume he plays as well.
Fair enough. Yeah, but it's definitely a pass catcher that I'd be interested in. We saw him for the first 3 weeks of the season. 2 out of those 3 games, he had 10 plus yards per reception. Saw 5 targets in week 3, made 5 catches, put up 54 yards. Needs to get in the end zone, I think, to really, truly be relevant. But if you think about the idea of a sub-replacement level quarterback coming in here, kind of a safety valve at tight end if they run the route that way. So I kind of like the idea of maybe the tight end sees a few more targets rather than slinging the ball downfield so much. Maybe they're playing a little bit more of a conservative game. Maybe they're going to some 2 tight end sets as well where Disley and Everett are going to be on the field a little bit more. Just give Geno Smith a little bit more protection to protect him from that sack vulnerability that we brought up a few times. So yeah, I think that's a totally viable play. It was actually somebody I was in the process of clicking on in this lineup that I'm making here. So I like that call.
Sounds good.
Right. I'm not seeing anything that would indicate he is not playing. Same questions out there. How in this day and age do we not have the answers for this? I'm seeing the same questions on Twitter and they're tagging the Matthew Berry. And
as if Matthew Berry's going to know,
as if
right?
Matthew Berry's going to answer on Twitter. That's probably not going to happen. But the point being, we're not the only one having those questions or via the ESPN. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, Matthew Berry's going to respond to that tweet by saying that the Rams played earlier today.
Gotta love that.
Good times. I see what you did there. I see what I did there. I hate you all. But you know what I don't hate? Prize Picks.
Prize Picks.
Prize Picks is awesome. So Prize Picks is offering daily fantasy prop contests. They want to help you get started, so they're giving you a deposit bonus of $100. They'll match you up to $100. That money comes out first when you enter into contests. You're not going to have to worry about sharks, optimizers, mass multi-entry. All you got to do is pick 2, 3, 4, or 5 of the players available on the board to go over or under their projected score. They have fantasy points. They got a variety of stats. Eitan and I counted it yesterday. They had 17 different sports offered, or first half, second half of the NFL. They've got NBA coming right around the corner. They got WNBA. They could put highlight up there. They've had hot dog eating contests. They got League of Legends. They got CSGO. They've got all sorts of stuff out there. You can do cross-sport bets. They also started doing in week 1 or week 2, they've done it so they do, not only do they do single game contests, they also do second half contests where you can ask the questions on those with the same things with you want to go over under rushing yards or receptions or touchdowns or fantasy points, whole variety of things you can choose from there. If you correctly pick your 5-player lineup, you can get up to 10x your prize, your entry fee. So you can also choose what they call the flex play. If you go with 5 in your flex play, you get 3 right, you get 40% of your money back. You get 4 right, you double it, and you get 5 right, you get 10x. If you go with 4 and you do your flex, you got to get 3 right and you double your money. And I think if you get all 4, I think it's like 7x. Those are all I don't have them all memorized, but those are all posted, the little nuances on their site, and it even tells you when you're signing up there. So that's or as you're filling out your card. So between that and of course the deposit match up to $100, that is definitely the way to go. We got 13 minutes left. Let's hit on some prize picks here. The 2 quarterback ones here, these are kind of stayaways for me. I pulled these 45 minutes ago. I do want to say these are not static lines. Yesterday, they had Najee Harris under his 72.5 was his rushing totals. I think it's up to 76 or 77 right now. These things move around a little bit depending on what news breaks, where people are coming in, et cetera. It's not static like it is on some of the other ones. So you want to, I may be off by just a touch here. But Geno Smith, they have for 2, and I've got these in my run sheet, guys, so you can see them. I'll say them out loud for everybody else that's there. But Geno Smith is 224.5 on PrizePicks for passing yards. Awesemo has him for 238. Ben Roethlisberger, 255. Again, he's topped that twice this season. Awesemo's projecting him for 272. These are stayaways from me, but those numbers seem pretty darn low. It's a low-scoring game. We know the Seahawks are likely to be playing from behind, which means more passes. But where do you think Geno Smith can end up? Was this a stayaway, or are you guys interested in this one?
Nick, any interest in Geno Smith there? It's not for me.
Yeah, definitely not. Not for me either. Even though we have him projected to get more passing yards than 224.5, I'm not feeling very confident in that. Maybe his rushing yards, maybe he rushes for more than 17.5 yards. I feel like if I had to take anything for Geno, that's kind of the way I would look over any of the passing props.
Yeah, the Jets play in Giant Stadium, which is like 2 or 3 miles that way, if everybody can see which way I'm pointing. I have seen Geno Smith. I know who Geno Smith is. I believe that he's going under that total. I am interested in the Roethlisberger one, though. That is coming up on our NFL player props tool, which gives you all of this stuff laid out in a ridiculously easy-to-use fashion, gives you the ROI, the expected ROI for all of these bets, which you can also find an odd shopper with our new click-through features, and we made it like e-commerce, like if you're shopping on Amazon, you can say, okay, I want to buy a TV. I want to buy a TV made by Sony. I want to buy a TV made by Sony that's 45 to 75 inches. You can whittle things down with a few clicks. It's amazing. But the point is, Roethlisberger expected win percentage for that over, 2nd overall on our board. So I really like that. 67% probability of coming in on the over, 25% expected ROI with a negative 115 prop odds on it. So I'll take the over on the Roethlisberger one.
All right. Yeah, if I was leaning one way, I'd go there, but I've got a couple others that will be in my card. So rushing yards, Geno Smith, we have him for PrizePicks had him for 17.5. We have him for 20. Najee Harris up to 76.5. Again, I took these about an hour ago, so they may have changed a little bit. I've already got the Najee Harris over when it was 72. I'm going to go with one of his other props that are on the board today, but we are projecting him for 83 rushing yards. And then Alex Collins, I do like the Alex Collins, 57. We have him for 69, which is nice. Which way are you going to land on that one, Nick?
Who did you say really quick? Sorry, I was looking at something.
Alex Collins, 57.5.
Okay. Yeah.
Higher or lower?
I would probably go with the higher as well. I apologize for that. I was just checking my phone really quick. But yeah, Alex Collins over 57.5. I like that a lot. I think Alex Collins could have a relatively big game in this spot. That's why we've kind of talked about him a lot for DFS. I think that he is the clear main guy there in that backfield. They're going to utilize DJ Dallas a little bit, but I think if Alex Collins looks a little bit better than he looked up against the LA Rams, then we'll see him get even more of a stronger stranglehold over the backfield. So I think Alex Collins looks pretty good, and he's going to be a guy we probably talk about the next bunch of weeks because Chris Carson's on the IR.
Okay, that was, you subtly did that for my whole Jags go. I see you. I see where you're coming from, young man. There will be vegetables. There will be vegetables tonight in your future. I can sense that. I'm gonna tell your girlfriend that you're on no fast food for the next week.
Oh no.
Yeah. We're done.
Oh, that's messed up. She could probably hear you. Maybe she's behind me.
Well, there's a chance. I was going to make a joke about you looking at your phone and swiping right because I've seen you post pictures. You went out to the pumpkin patch the other day, so I know that she is around there somewhere. Hopefully she doesn't kick your ass after this show.
She probably will.
That's some kind of euphemism from out back in like the 40s. You went out to the pumpkin patch the other day. What are you talking about?
What? Yeah,
hey,
no.
Easy now. We have 9 minutes left. Otherwise, I would get into some convoluted It's a Wonderful Life talking about Bedford Falls. But we'll save that for the holiday episode. Receiving yards, DK Metcalf. I'm in on this one. 63.5 or higher. We have him for 71. I'm on the over. Where do you guys stand?
I think that one's going to come in over. Let me just pull up on the old board here. What was the PrizePicks one? I just want to make sure we're talking
63.5.
Okay, so it's gone up by a yard, but I still like it. We had it at 62.5 on the board where it's coming in with a 57% probability of coming in. We've got them projected for 70.2. So we've still got a comfortable enough margin there. It probably comes down to, a percentage point or so in terms of the probability of success. Comes down a little bit in terms of the ROI. It's not our top bet on the board if we're sorting by those factors, but I definitely do still like it to come in as the over based on Awesemo's projection.
All right. Tyler Lockett, 57 versus 63. That's a stay away. Alex Collins, 14.5 versus 15.7. Do you guys have a lean on the Alex Collins one?
In my opinion, I am not all that over that. I think that he gets a lot of his yards with rushing. When it came to Tyler Lockett, I think it's very interesting because I know you kind of pivoted down to Alex Collins, but it's kind of interesting because all it takes for Tyler Lockett is literally 2 catches to get 57.5 yards because that's kind of his play style. The question is, can Geno Smith hit him 40 yards down the field? Can he hit him that far away? Maybe not, but that's when I'm definitely looking to stay away. And same thing goes with the Alex Collins. We have him projected at 15.7. So technically that would be a lean towards Alex Collins, but I'd probably stay away.
Terry, any thought on that one?
Yeah, I agree with the idea that Collins is just primarily a ground-based guy. I'm just looking through some of his previous seasons. The big year in Baltimore, overall throughout the course of 12 starts, 15 games total, he saw 212 carries, rushed for 973 yards. He only saw 36 targets as a part of that offense. So I think that, we can kind of temper expectations for the overall amount that they're going to go to him. He saw 3 targets last week. He saw two targets the week before. I just don't really see him being a big part of what I think is going to be a very ugly passing game here. So I would be inclined to lean toward the under on that one.
All right. And we've got 6 minutes to go. Gerald Everett, 18.5. We have him at 28.5. I like the over on this one. I see someone also asking in chat. We're almost positive Anthony Miller is not active today. I'm zeroing him out. I don't think it's worth even considering him. Play Ray McLeod instead. Or or Washington or somebody else. But back to Gerald Everett's 18.5 over or under for you guys.
I would probably lean towards the over, but all of the value for Gerald Everett when we're talking about DFS wise is just him scoring the touchdown. So maybe he gets 20 yards and that touchdown, but I think he could easily surpass 18.5 with kind of the workload that he's been given, at least in the first 3 games of the season before he had COVID or was on the COVID IR. I'm not sure exactly which one it was, if he was symptomatic or not, but he did look pretty solid through the first couple of games. Not something that I'm going to go ahead and scream aggressively about that you need to go ahead and put Gerald Everett on this, but I do think he is a solid pick there at 18.5.
Right.
Yeah, and just looking at his yards per reception over the last couple of years, he's over 10. He was 10.2 last season, 11.0 in the season before that, seeing 60-ish targets each year, catching 40-ish balls each year. So it's reasonable to expect if he sees 2 catches that he's going to be right around that number. If he sees the third one, he gets over. So we're talking about Gerald Everett needing 3 to 5 targets here. I think that's totally viable with Geno Smith at quarterback.
All right, 5 minutes to go here. We've got another super chat here from D Niz. Last 2 in flex. He's the guy who had the high dollar DK and cash lineups. He has Geno in both as a flex. These are his flex plays: Everett and Deontay Johnson, or Claypool and James Washington. I'm leaning Claypool and James Washington.
Since those are high dollar, let me jump over here and I'll get to the old leverage again. Because one of those, I believe, was a tournament. And Claypool, again, we saw it when we built the lineup. He's popular. He's going to be in like 40% of lineups, but we've got him being optimal in the flex role more frequently than that. We've got him coming up in the 2 to 6 top scorers more frequently than that. So I think it just makes sense go with the Claypool one there.
All right. Speaking of Claypool and Deontay Johnson, about 63 yards on PrizePicks, 74 on per Awesemo. If you have a lean, go either way. I would like to play their fantasy points better. I like Claypool at over 14 fantasy points. It works the touchdowns in. I like Deontay Johnson at over 16 fantasy points. Again, it gets touchdowns in. It's full PPR. You don't have to worry as much about the receiving yards. That came back to burn me today. Who was it? Somebody had 4 catches and 80 yards, and I recommended going PPR for him, and he did not get there on the fantasy points, but did on the yardage. So frustrating.
Was it Devontae Adams?
No, it was like our second or third projected guy.
He only had 4 catches and a frustrating total, and it was way too many of my lineups today.
All right, our last few. Alex Collins, 12 fantasy points. I'm okay going the over on that. We have him for 13.5. Tyler Lockett, they have 14. We have 14. I'd probably take the under and hope he doesn't get a touchdown. That would be the way that one breaks for you. And I think that wraps up most everything. 3 minutes to go here.
I think fantasy point wise with those various receivers, it's always fine to take the under on those different ones if you've got like a 1-1A situation and you're just kind of playing the narrative that, all right, that other guy's getting the volume here. So I think that makes some sense.
It was Jamar Chase. I went with the Jamar Chase over 16 fantasy points. Didn't think he'd get the 79.5 yards or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, he got the yardage. So that was one of the picks we did with Aton yesterday. I had the James Robinson over on receiving yards. I had Khalil Herbert over on receiving yards. We ended up getting Jamar Chase over on receiving yards. I have to go look at my card there. Now it says I can't log in. PrizePicks, you're killing me here. But you know what they're also still doing? 100% deposit match up to your first $100 using the promo code Awesemo. It's the way to go. 2 minutes till lock here. What do we got? Let's look for our last few questions. Hit that like button, please. We would appreciate that.
Emac, if you're building tournament lineups on DraftKings, do you think there's any viability of putting one of those alternate Seattle running backs that are so cheap in the captain role? Are you seeing that at all?
I saw it in the first lineup that came out of my crunch. DJ Dallas in the captain spot. That will be in 1% of my lineup, or a little more than 1%. I made 77 lineups tonight.
Okay. Yeah.
Why I made 77? Well, because I did.
It's a cool number.
That was normally I make 100, but that was what came out. Doing a lot here. Adding the NBA draft in during the show was the
I got to squeeze in some NBA drafts. I forgot all about season long NBA, to be honest. So I got to get
I've got another one.
Best ball in. It's just the whole season snuck up on me.
I have my second one coming up in 11 minutes, which is perfect because we're about to get off air. There was a Scotia overlay there on let's just answer into the DK. Can I get into the Yahoo? Can I get there real quick?
The Yahoo is 9,300 entries out of 11,300.
There you go. Are you guys playing kickers if you're playing on the DK slate today? Not in the captain role, just in the flex spots. Do you guys go to kickers frequently?
Yeah, I do. I like Chris Boswell.
I had to get that in.
I think they're both viable in this specific game. Looking back at that historical sample, it was an okay play. It wasn't a really strong play, but again, it's a small sample, and I just think that this game skews so ugly that I think both kickers are significantly in play in this one.
29% Boswell. I had him capped at 30. 13% Jason Myers. I had him capped at 90. He didn't get there. I misclicked on that. I don't think I have. I tried to zero him out in captain or left it at 1%. No Myers, 1 Boswell out of my 77.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I did get in. I would dabble with a little bit more this week than I normally do. Kickers and defense, I normally don't go to a ton on the DK slate, just considering how infrequently viable they are and how much upside is in the other positions.
Yeah, I don't remember what game it was, but it was the Graham Geno game, and I had the other kicker in the game, and that one really hurt.
Good times. Good times. All right, there's 600 watching. As you walk on out of here, hit that like button. Get us up to 200. Come on, that'll be a nice little gift to us on Sunday here. You guys can catch us again next Sunday. We will be right here, same time, same channel, same trio, having a lot of fun. Tomorrow morning, we've got at 9 a.m. the NFL Showdown strategy. That's going to be with Laffy and Matt Kajeski. And then at 10 o'clock, we're going to have Josh and Adam doing the NBA DFS tutorial. NBA DFS tutorial. Oh my God, NBA starts on Tuesday. 2-game slate, big slate on Wednesday. We'll be getting articles. Terry and I are going to be, are we doing triple duty, NFL, NBA, and MLB?
Yeah.
Terry, is this going to be
there's no NFL on Tuesday, but I'm going to, anytime there's a 2-game slate, at least for the rest of the season, which won't be many, I'll have an MLB article. We're going to have a couple very short MLB shows during the week that I'll be hosting with Max and with Gundacker. They'll be at scattered times during the afternoons, like 25, 30-minute shows, just so we can get some content out. But NBA content, looking forward to restarting my optimal lineups column that'll be up every day for the NBA slate. Hopefully without fail, I hit every single day of the MLB season. We'll see if I can pull the same trick for NBA.
All right. And I, of course, will be doing the NBA cash building blocks article, or the DFS building blocks article. We'll have a special look in at Yahoo, get the featured Yahoo play of the day. You'll also get, I think we'll probably put in some PrizePicks stuff as well, along with DK and FanDuel. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing those. And those, just so you guys know, I write those because I know the shelf life needs to be a long time. Those try to get up by lunch. So what I do is I will usually pick a few of the core plays that are unlikely to change regardless of what's going on around them. And then I'll look at the slate and see what else there is to talk about. Maybe it's going to be talking about a game stack, or maybe it's a small slate and we talk about how raw points matter, or how we can look for differentiation, even though everybody's going to be 40 or 50% owned. There's a lot of different ways in learning things that I put in there. So it's a worthwhile read every day. It takes about 5 minutes to read each day. It takes me about 2 hours to write it, but it's something that I try to leave you with something to carry away with. Sometimes we talk about optimizers. It just kind of is a free-flowing thing, but there will always be those key core players. So it's definitely worth your time, because behind the paywall, that's where we're staring at the matrix. We're looking at the top stacks tool.
That's just Discord, Emac. I know you're not used to it yet. That's just Discord that you're looking at. It's not the matrix.
Oh, I will be in Slack until Discord. Well, did you see me dodge that bullet?
Into the walls.
All right. With that,
we need to get that in bullet time. Slow that, grab that, cut that, slow it down, put it up on the internet. Come on.
Someone needs to get that up.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. Awesome, yo.
Hey,
with
everybody
that,
out there.
shout out to producer, producer Mike Lawrence. You guys know him as Awesome Yo. He is the one that created the EMAC 2024 campaign button. With that, gamers, good luck.